Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has not spoken to his Chinese counterpart in over a year, since July 2022. That single fact alone speaks volumes about the dangerous tensions between the world's two most powerful countries. In testimony before the House Armed Services Committee in March, General Milley said that while war with China isn't imminent or inevitable, the U.S. needs to keep its military stronger than China's so that if deterrence fails, America can win. Here's more with General Milley. You have said that China is on track to have a military that might even be more powerful than the United States.
That's their objective.
And you say they're moving in that direction.
They're trying to move in that direction.
Is it possible that we will look back and think that we overestimated them in the way that I remember estimations of Soviet military power that in retrospect were wildly off?
Sure.
I remember the estimates of Saddam Hussein's military that in retrospect were wildly off.
Sure.
Are we, is it possible that because it's a bit of a black box and we don't know a lot, that we tend to think our enemies are taller than they are?
Absolutely. I mean, that's very possible. And the Chinese are not 10 feet tall. And notice, I said that's their plan, that's their desire, that's their aspiration. And if we stay still, if the United States stays still and the United States military stays still and we don't modernize, then there's a reasonable chance the Chinese would succeed in doing that. But what you've seen, Fareed, is probably the largest shift in economic power in well over a century since the rise of the United States economically in the late 1800s. Perhaps even multiple centuries, the rise of the West, the fall of Rome, something like that. You've seen an enormous shift in global economic power to China, beginning with the reforms of Deng Xiaoping in 79. I'm commissioned in 1980, so 45 years ago, the economics of the world began to shift. So today you've got the manufacturing capital of the world, without exception, is China. And in the wake of that shift in economic power, the Chinese took that money and have invested in making a world-class military. That's what they're trying to do. They want a military that's very capable in space, in cyber, and then the traditional domains of land, sea, and air. They've developed, fourth and fifth generation fighter bombers, really copying our designs. They're trying to develop a blue water navy, a subsurface navy. They've reformed their ground forces from an infantry, peasant-based army of the 1970s to a modern army with multiple commands, etc. So they're on the path to do that. And their goal is to exceed the United States military capability in East Asia, really by the end of this decade, and certainly by the middle of next decade. And they want the United States to exit East Asia militarily and diplomatically. They want us to cease being the arbiter of outcomes in Asia. And they want to be the global challenger of the United States by mid-century. They want to meet or exceed U.S. military capabilities by mid-century. But we're not going to stand still. The United States is going to continue to modernize, continue to invest. And I know it sounds a bit like a bumper sticker, but there is value in the phrase peace through strength. So the objective here is deterrence. You don't want a great power war. We had a great power war in World War I. We had a great power war in World War II. We haven't had one in 80 years. And we need to make sure that we avoid a great power war. And China, can be evaluated a lot of different ways, but great power is certainly what they are. Economically, militarily, they're capable. And we should try our very best to avoid open armed conflict with China.
The most likely flashpoint is Taiwan. The reports say, Christian Brose's book, he was an aide to Senator McCain, that the Pentagon has done many war games over Taiwan. The U.S. has almost never won in those war games. Is it possible for the United States to repel a Chinese invasion of Taiwan?
It's entirely possible, yeah. So I've done a massive amount of war games over the years. I'm in my 44th year of service. War games start out with training objectives. A lot of times you're experimenting in them. You're introducing new capabilities. So you got to be careful with the conclusions from quote-unquote war games. They're typically not exactly free play. And they are designed to achieve certain outcomes to begin with. So I would tell you a couple of things in an unclassified way about Taiwan. First of all, we, the United States, still maintain the Taiwan Relations Act, the communication assurances that go with that, and we, the States want a peaceful outcome between Taiwan and the People's Republic of China. And whatever that is between those two peoples, that's the U.S. desire, right? As long as it's done peacefully. But militarily, I think China would make a grave strategic mistake if they attempted to attack to seize the island of Taiwan. That's not the only option, by the way. But to attack and seize the island of Taiwan is a very, very high bar. It's the most complex of all operations to do. And frankly, the Chinese military capability is probably not there right this second to do that. President Xi, in public, unclassified speeches, has challenged the People's Liberation Army and Navy and Air Force to develop that capability by 2027, is what he said. It used to be the 2030s, and he moved it to 2027. That doesn't mean he made a decision to do it, but that means that he wants them to have the capability to do it. And what that also means is they don't have the capability right this second, at least in his mind.